Looking at Tron Light Cycle Run at the Magic Kingdom is a little bit like looking at the Mona Lisa, leaned up against a dirty cardboard box. From a particular angle, it's a work of true art, beautiful to behold. But if you go around to other vantage points, you may find that it looks, well, a little bit dingy, and perhaps as if the Imagineers at Disney were leaning far too much on the blockiness of the 8-bit era. Yes, I know we're dealing with Tron, a movie that came out at a time when Super Mario Bros. Was advanced graphics, but still. The lackluster effort by WDI to hide the show building when you're walking through New Fantasyland, well, it changes everything about the company that they've been telling us for the past 20, 30, 40 years, which is, cover those sorts of things up. You don't want a giant box dominating the horizon. Yet that's what it is, and this is new territory for Magic Kingdom. Over in Epcot, we're getting used to that with the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster. It has a massive warehouse building that's not themed at all, and it dominates next to Spaceship Earth from certain angles. But we held Magic Kingdom in some high regard. Now that's a bit gone. However, when you're walking up to Tron from Tomorrowland, passing by Space Mountain, you are presented, in fact, with one of the best pieces of iconography in any theme park in the world. Truly, Tron is a sight to behold, and at night, it's perhaps one of the most beautiful things that you'll see in North America. I'm not saying that to be facetious or hyperbolic. It is that grandiose. It is that wonderful. And I can see people spending hours taking in just how beautiful the front of Tron is from this location. There's also a ton of room for them to add new things in the future, what with these winding walkways that go over other walkways, that pass over the railroad, and eventually meander their way into the giant building that is Tron Light Cycle Run. But what about the attraction as a roller coaster, rather than just a piece of eye candy or an eyesore? Well, when it comes down to roller coasters, Tron is, it's okay. It's not Velocicoaster, it's not Rock and Roller Coaster, but it's a serviceable roller coaster that I think people will enjoy. Now, there's been some criticism that perhaps it has the same ride time as the Velocicoaster, and therefore these are equal roller coaster thrill ride attractions. But that's simply not true. Tron has a 33% lesser track length than Velocicoaster in Universal Studios. And yes, they do have technically the same ride duration, but that's largely because of the time it takes for Tron's vehicles to get out of the station and into the launch bay, and then once they hit the brakes, the length of time for those same cars to get back in the station again. In other words, there's plenty of dead time on Tron. However, there's a fantastic 58 seconds from the time that you launch out of the building and through the canopy until you come back in and you do some twists and turns. It's a nice roller coaster, there's no doubt about it. It's also an experience that is greatly aided by you riding it at night. And though some have said, oh no, it's all the same, it really isn't. You're going to want to ride this attraction at night, even if only for those brief seconds that you're outside in the canopy. It's still worth it to have all of that lit up with the LEDs chasing you through that initial burst of speed. There is something to be critiqued here. When this ride was put into Magic Kingdom in Florida, they already knew that Shanghai had been criticized, that is, the original Tron, it's located in Shanghai Disney. It had already been criticized for being so brief. And given the vast amounts of land that they have in Magic Kingdom, and also given the budget that surely they were willing to afford, I mean, remember, Magic Kingdom is the most visited theme park in the world. It is truly the biggest playground, the most important playground on planet Earth. Surely they could have lengthened this thing. And one way they could have done it? Well, the typical ending, they could have turned into yet another launch, just like with the Slinky Dog Dash ride, which has multiple launches. And they could have had that go into an extension on the show building. It didn't need to even have any height on it. Just zigs and zags would have done. By giving this more length, this could have been one of the greatest attractions on Earth. It could have been one of the greatest roller coasters on Earth. And yes, they would have had to move some theming around and switch some screens, but that's okay. Instead, what we have is a very short coaster. I mentioned Slinky Dog Dash before, and that's apropos, because this really does feel like Slinky Dog Dash except on a motorcycle. And it feels like it's a lot of beauty out on the front side of this, but yet again, we're going into a very dark building lit with black lights, in which it's not quite as thrilling as you might expect. We've already done this with Rock and Roller Coaster, where the second half of the ride isn't as great as the first half. That's okay. We've already done this with Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind, and that has the gimmick of the vehicles turning left and right, and they also have all kinds of graphics going on, and it's a great ride. There's no doubt about it. In fact, I would say that Cosmic Rewind is far superior to Tron. And of course, there's the Standard Bearer. There's Space Mountain, where we began this entire idea of putting a roller coaster inside a building with the lights off. But that's becoming a bit tedious now, and Disney needs to break free of that. So if they weren't going to, it would have been at least nice to have had a longer ride. More thrills, more chills, more spills. Well, let's hope that those spills don't include vomit on the way out. Speaking of which, Tron does get a serviceable restroom on the outside of the building, but again here, Disney seems to have taken some shortcuts. It's not themed around Tron, it's just basic. And that's also true for the tunnel that takes the railroad underneath it. They had the opportunity to put all kinds of things in that tunnel, all kinds of displays that would have made it fantastic for passengers riding through finally on the Walt Disney World Railroad. And yet it's just a tunnel. It looks like something you might experience on your commute into work if you pass through anything like that. Now, Tron is fun, and I think that for the most part, people are really going to enjoy it. However, I don't know that it's worth a 2-hour wait, and I think some people are going to be frustrated when they get off the ride and realize how short it was. But in the long term, I think this will be a popular attraction. The only thing that I take issue with beyond having a giant warehouse now visible across Magic Kingdom is that this could have been more. And due to budgetary issues, it's not. This could have been up there with classic rides like Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, Tower of Terror, Spaceship Earth. This could have been one of the greatest roller coasters around. But they nickeled and dimed the thing. They didn't even stretch the canopy to hide the show building. They didn't add a little bit, even though they had the land to do so. And because of this, what we get is a nice coaster, a good coaster even. But it's much more beautiful on the outside, much more impressive looking at that canopy than it is to actually ride. One final note on this one. It's probably not a good idea to have ride vehicles which exclude some guests based on the size of their calves on their legs. That's weird. And when they were engineering this thing, it's probably something they should have taken into consideration. Just a heads up for you future Imagineers out there. Keep that in mind whenever you're designing a new ride. All right, that'll do it for our review of Tron Light Cycle Run. What did you think? Was I fair? Was I not? Let us know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and stick it to the algorithms. When you click it, we're talking about the notification bell. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun. We'll see you tomorrow.